This is a mock interview conducted by ForumIAS Academy at New Delhi. The interview panel includes eminent academicians, retired bureaucrats, and other luminaries. The objective of the program is to acquaint the candidate with the format and expectations of the personality test conducted by UPSC.
Please come in, ma'am.
Yes, please come.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sirs.
Please sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
We call you Ramdeni, we call you Sainath.
Ma'am, you can call me Sainath.
Sainath. Ramdeni is what? Your Ramden, or is that a village?
Ma'am, Ramdeni is my surname based on a water body where my ancestors lived. The name of the water body was Ramadeva, based on which Ramdeni name has come.
Ah, but in Hindi, Ramdeni means Dane of Ram. It is given by Ram. Anyway, okay, very good. So this is Karimnagar, Telangana. But tell me, they say that in the partition of Andhra Pradesh, AP was very shortchanged. Is that correct? They say Andhra portion of hitherto Andhra Pradesh was very shortchanged in the partition of the state, in the bifurcation of the state. Telangana got a lion's share of everything, and Andhra was what shortchanged. Is that correct?
Ma'am, in terms of geography, yes, to a certain extent it is correct, because 58% of the geography went to Andhra Pradesh and 42% of geography came to Telangana. But in terms of economy, only the Hyderabad-centric development in the region has come to Telangana. And if you look at Andhra, the other socio-economic indicators and also the economic aspects went to Andhra Pradesh. So I can say that it's most of a balanced thing than just saying that.
It is balanced. So what was the principle for assets and liability sharing? They said that is where the real fix took place. Where did the liabilities go?
Ma'am, the question is still pending under the AP.
So what is the principle being espoused?
Ma'am, I'm not very sure of it, but if I could take a guess, it is mostly on the basis of population and geography, 58:42. I'm not sure of it.
And assets, what was it? As is, where is?
So I'm going to have to look into it.
As is, where is? Assets was as is, where is?
Yes, ma'am.
And liabilities were on a different principle, where the population went, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyway,
Population.
that's right. I see. Okay. You have a very interesting hobby of learning about tribes, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very wonderful. We need a lot of people who are sensitive to the tribes of India. So tell me, the Jaunsaris, what is so unique about them? Some unique practices they have?
The Jaunsari tribes.
You know where they live? Where?
Ma'am, to a certain extent, they live in Odisha.
Jaunsaris?
Yes, ma'am.
Jaunsar Bhavar.
I'm sorry, then I have to look into geography.
Jaunsar Bhavar is in Dehradun, Chakrata. It goes up from Dehradun upwards to, it's both sides of the border. It will be this side, it will be Uttarkashi, and that will be Himachal. Those tribals. So do you know anything unique about them? Some very unique features they have.
Ma'am, to a certain extent, if I could remember correctly, they follow matrilineal practices.
And what about the tribals in Chintapalli block of Vizag? What's so special? Which are the tribes there?
Ma'am, Araku, the region where these tribes live, the region is called as Araku, and in that region...
I'm talking about Chintapalli block particularly.
Chintapalli, ma'am. Ma'am, I do not know the block in Vizag, but I can say that...
Araku Valley is beyond.
Yes, ma'am, I do not know the geography, but the tribes are mostly the Kondaredis and Chenchus.
So what's special about them?
Ma'am, they still practice the concept of nature-man-spirit complex, which is their conservation, which is their orthodox belief practices. At the same time, they're also moving towards Sanskritization and Westernization, where the beliefs and practice systems are degrading to a great extent.
They used to move around with bows and arrows for a long time.
Ma'am, previously, yes, they used to be semi-nomadic tribes, but at the moment they are settled, and because of the...
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You are electrical electronics graduate, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Tell me a very basic question that creates lots of problem as an Indian for me, that we are launching Mangalyaan into space. We are technically sound, but why it is so that 7 out of 10 smartphones are Chinese? So why don't we make phones indigenously, or why we are so much dependent on China for this mobile technology. Don't we have this mobile technology?
So the fundamental problem here is the issue of semiconductor devices and the field of semiconductors. If I was talking to one of my friends who was working in Intel, he says that the bigger problem is the ever-changing R&D pattern and the kind of R&D system which is present in India. Since this is an ever-changing field, we can see that the IPs filed by China and the USA and Taiwan are much more in this field rather than compared to India. And since India's most R&D comes from the government sectors and not the private sector. This is a major problem, sir, because of which we import a lot from China. But at the same time, India is also coming up with schemes such as production-linked incentive scheme for electronics manufacturing clusters, where we are providing indigenous systems to this thing, sir.
Which newspaper do you read regularly?
Sir, for the national news, I do read the Hindu, and for the state-based news, I read the 𝐒𝐻𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐿𝐵, which is the leading Telugu daily.
Hindu these days covering Adani share prices massacre, right? What's your opinion on this issue?
Since if you look at the report by the Heidelberg, which is a New York-based stock organization, it is said that since it also issued a lot of reports previously, where it highlighted the problems which were completely true to their report. I do see it very objectively, seeing that there were some issues of stock manipulation from the Adani, but at the same time, today I was reading the newspaper where it said that the market, MSCI, the Commodity Exchange Board of India, has asked Adani for some report regarding the stock manipulation issue from Adani.
Do you view that if we increase some amount on Kisan Nidhi, that may help farmers to some extent?
So yes, sir, PM Kisan in the sense that it provides capital support to the farmers, where it helps them to it helps them to incur input costs, which mostly they depend upon the money lenders, and makes them move out of the debt cycle which they face. But if you look at the process of increasing the PM Kisan Nidhi, sir, what we could do is that we could adjust the increase in amount with respect to inflation, so that the input price that they buy the fertilizers and seeds, that could be charged on it.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've taken anthropology as your optional.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me, with the growing popularity of live-in relationships, has the institution of marriage somehow suffered and is leading to cultural shock in India?
Sir, if you look at the live-in relationship aspects that is now prevalent in most of the urban cities in India, what I can say is that this is mostly a part of westernization. And if we cannot say it as a culture shock, rather we could say it as a part of assimilation towards the marriage system of India, which we are tolerant in. And sir, if you look at the rural aspect of our country, where this live-in relationship is not yet socially accepted, but it is mostly there in urban areas only. And if you look at the securities that the marriage system of India provides, it is still intact, which is not there in live-in relationship. And I think in the time to come, we become more tolerant and we become more acceptable and assimilative in terms of live-in relationships, provided they give the same security as marriage to our system.
It's a good thing. You think it's a good thing?
Sure. To a certain extent, I feel that since it is mostly between the two consenting individuals, since it's their private personal area, it is good for the two individuals. But if you look at the societal aspect, to a certain extent, it is concerning.
But in India, the institution of marriage is very sacred, right? And we cannot just, in the name of liberalism, we cannot just copy everything that the West accepts.
Sure. As you said, Indian marriage system is sacred, but at the same time, it's also assimilative. It is always withstood the test of time. And marriage system, if it is open, and if it's open for the questions of the day, of the present times, it will be much more acceptable and assimilative in the future.
All right. What is ethnocentrism?
Sir, ethnocentrism is that aspect of anthropology where the person who sees the society, he sees that society with respect to his own cultural understanding rather than understanding the culture from their own perspective.
Okay. And do you think which one is more ethnocentric? Is it India or US?
So we cannot blanketly say that the countries are ethnocentric. It is
just your personal opinion. Which one is more ethnocentric?
So to a certain extent, both India and US, sir, I can say that both of us.
So you'll give both of them equal points?
No, sir, since the cultural aspect of US and India are completely different. We cannot.
Do you think India is becoming more ethnocentric with time?
Sorry, sir, I do not agree with that point.
Sorry?
I do not agree with that point.
Okay.
Because ethnocentrism is that aspect which has been there since the time immemorial. And there are certain areas and issues in our country where ethnocentrism has prevailed. For example, if you look at the issue of tribal assimilation, tribal mainstreaming, without giving due regards to their belief systems, that is ethnocentrism, sir. And if you look at the US aspect also, recently there was an issue of killing of a black American, the George Floyd. It reflects the ethnocentric part of US as well. So to a certain extent, to certain cultural parts of both the country, yes, there is some ethnocentrism. And with respect,
that is racism, right? But US is more accepting towards other cultures and people from other cultures, other nations, and most of them have formed a good community there. But on the flip side, in India, we do not see people from various other countries coming and living in.
Sir, racism as a overall perspective and a broader horizon comes under ethnocentrism itself. And sir, with respect to India, since USA has been called the melting pot of different ethnic people, and in that sense we can say that USA has been more of a diverse background, whereas if you look at India, it is more the people who are inhabitants of the India in the previous times are continuing till date.
You've done electronics and communication engineering. Would you say that the 5G technology is not suitable for India?
No, sir. In fact, it is the need of the hour.
How is it a need of the hour? How is it different from 4G? First tell me that and then complete your statement.
Sir, if you look at the technical aspects of 4G versus 5G, firstly, there's a decrease in latency speed, which says that decrease in latency speed. And secondly, with respect to the browsing speed of the 5G higher when compared to the 4G. And thirdly, sir, the application of 5G, which is more diverse when compared to 4G, because we are looking at industrial revolution.
What about coverage?
Yes, sir. Since the bandwidth which is used in 5G is on the higher gigahertz spectrum, there are certain issues with respect to reachability of.
Would you say that it would require more infrastructure and more cost to penetrate the internet in 5G?
Sir, with respect to cost, yes, there will be some impending cost in the future to come because we are upgrading our infrastructure.
How will we penetrate the internet if it is that costly and it requires that much infrastructure?
Sir, firstly, we can use the existing infrastructure which can be upgraded. For example, we can.
What infrastructure?
So we can use the mobile towers, and we can also use the underground optical fiber cable systems as well. Using
we already have that.
Yes, we can upgrade the infrastructure. That is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sainath.
Thank you, sir.
I heard you were talking about mainstreaming of tribals. In India, there's a very interesting practice. Each child in a family, wherever he or she is born, he or she is accorded a separate tune. Do you know where this practice is followed? A separate tune to his or her name. A separate tune to every child, a unique tune.
So I do not remember the geography. I remember it sadly. I remember that I studied somewhere, but I do.
How do we include tribes into the scheduled tribe list in India?
So the procedure?
Yes.
So firstly, the state government passes a resolution and sends it to the Registrar General of India, and Registrar General of India gives it to National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, and then the National Commission of Scheduled Tribes gives it to the Parliament, and the debate happens. And based on the recommendation of the Parliament, the presidents come up with the presidential order under Article 342, Clause 1.
And what were the recommendations of local committee regarding it, identifying the tribal communities?
Sir, local committee in 1960 gave 5 broad criterions of identifying a tribe. Firstly, the backwardness, and secondly, the lower literacy, and third, the declining population, and fourth, shyness in contact with the mainstream society. So fifth one, I do.
No problem. So do we need to overhaul these recommendations, these criterias? Because it's been 1960, long time now. See, isolation won't be a big factor now because everywhere we have roads, trains, airports.
Sir,
so
yes,
how
sir.
do we define isolation now?
So yes, sir, since this committee of local committee was in 1960s, and there was another committee in Kaka in 2014, which said that we should upgrade the factors using which we identify the tribes. For example, nowadays we see the problems of Sanskritization and Westernization, which has to be addressed, which was not addressed in local committee. And secondly, sir, with respect to the second part of your question regarding the isolation part, the government of India is now trying to follow the policy of tribal panchil on its spirit as well, which can be seen in implementation of PISA as well. Panchayat extension of scheduled areas.
Can you throw some light upon the constitutional paradigm that is there for the welfare of the tribals?
So, firstly, with respect to the political representation, article.
Okay, no problem. If you don't remember the article, you can tell the provision.
Firstly, it gives representation for them. It gives a reservation for to them in the Lok Sabha and also at the legislative assemblies. And there's also a 5th schedule and 6th schedule, which tries to give autonomy to scheduled areas of the 5th schedule and autonomous areas in the 6th schedule. And with respect to the DPSPs under Article 46, it also mandates the government of India to ensure that the rights and the positions of the vulnerable sections are addressed properly. And also, sir, there is the Panchayat Extension of Scheduled Areas Act as well, which gives the rights to the Gram Sabha of the scheduled tribes.
How do you assess the working of Forest Rights Act?
So, if you look at the philosophy behind which the Forest Rights Act was formed in 2006, the reason was that to vest the rights to the tribes and the other traditional forest dwellers who are dependent on the minor forest produce of the forest. And sir, under Forest Rights Act, there are certain issues regarding to provision of pattas, the land rights to the tribes, out of which only 48 to 50% of pattas are only given. But at the same time, Forest Rights Act, since the community forest rights is a big problem with Forest Rights Act, we are trying to improve on that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ramdeni. That's all from my side. Pass on to Chairperson, ma'am.